So, if doing good is indeed good business, then why is it that so many of us struggle to get a decision maker's approval for our climate tech solutions and projects and services, even though the proposed solution has significant impact, is technologically rigorous and economically sound? This obstinacy of authority figures often frustrates even the most seasoned practitioners amongst us. So, is there a way to navigate this seemingly mysterious decision-making process to good effect? Absolutely yes. But it is only possible if we use compelling stories with metrics that matter translated to the language of the decision makers. So let's talk about these metrics that matter. First, let's talk about why. Why does this matter? After all, doesn't climate tech make economic sense and come with a compelling business case? And to say that it is the need of the hour is an understatement, right? I'd say this matters because not getting this right is simply not an option for us. And as we all fight the good fight, we could all do with a little or a lot less frustration in our lives. And here's another reason to do this. Because it's usually not so difficult and it doesn't take a lot of effort. My own personal experience has been that it only takes about 1 to 5% of the overall effort that it takes to develop a solution to a particular climate problem. So if you spend a day or a week developing a climate tech solution, spend about 30 minutes to think about how to effectively communicate the value of your solution. Edison said, genius is 1% inspiration and 99% perspiration. We've got the perspiration part. Let's get the inspiration right. Before we get to the metrics, first some basics. We're all familiar with the triple bottom line definition of sustainability: people, planet, profit. So we have these three intersecting circles, one for social, one for environmental, and one for economic. Depending on the aspects we solve for, we might have a viable solution or an equitable solution or a bearable solution. Of these 7 spaces on this diagram, there is only one space that solves for all 3 aspects. That is the truly sustainable solution space. Now the corollary here is that if we do not have a solution that solves for all 3 aspects, we still have some work to do getting to a truly sustainable solution set. Money may not be what we work for, but money is the currency of the world that we live in. So as a climate tech community, we need to get conversant and comfortable with boiling it all down to the dollars and cents or rupees and paise. The sustainability and climate change discourse is overwhelmingly about compliance and fear. For this to truly scale, to get to 100 or even 1,000 climate tech unicorns, we need to make it about motivation and value. Next, let's talk about who. Who should these metrics matter to? The planet or the environment? Or the influencer or the consultant? Or the buyer, the client, the customer? Or to us? Or to me? The answer to this question is, well, who decides? Who holds the purse strings? Who is the ultimate decision maker? Whose clear decision will be the most useful to you right now and in the future? Or who stands to benefit the most from your value proposition? Or whose life will be easier because of your solution? So once you've identified your who, get to know them. It is said in psychology, to persuade someone, find what motivates them. So what is their KPI, their key performance indicator? What is their KRA or their key responsibility area? How can I make this worth their while? How does what I have to offer help the decision maker achieve their KPI in their KRA? And how can I get their undivided attention for the next 5 to 10 minutes? Because 5 to 10 minutes is the most you will usually get from a decision maker, and it is in fact more than enough if you get the metrics that matter right. So how do we do this? There are a few ways to do this. One of the easiest ways is currency in the numerator, core business unit and business reporting timeline in the denominator. What is their currency for your decision maker, for their business? Is it kilowatt hours or carbon dioxide emissions or tons of waste? Unlikely. Is it rupees or dollars or margin or EBIT? Very likely. Now we may have an opening to being in business with them. What is their core business unit for your decision maker, for their business? Here's a hint. It's usually what people and companies in that segment, in that industry, use to size up each other in their conversations. So for example, we are an IT-enabled services company with 100,000 people, or we have a 100-room hotel, or we have a 500-bed hospital. So these are the core business units, usually the number of people or employees in the organization, the rooms in a hotel or the beds in a hospital. Next, what is their reporting timeline for your decision maker, for their business? It's usually not 5 years or a decade. There are annual reporting cycles and there are quarterly reporting cycles. Very often, reports and goals get tracked monthly and in some cases even daily. So let's look at some examples. The next series of examples is what I call the What's It Worth, Why Bother series. 6 years ago, I teamed up with the CFO of the organization I was with to conduct a series of roundtable discussions with 75 other CFOs, Chief Financial Officers, across India as participants. The intent was to communicate to these CFOs why energy management should matter to them and how it makes eminent business sense. As I set about communicating the energy efficiency opportunity, the gap between business as usual energy performance and best in class energy performance, I realized even in preparatory conversations with my own CFO that the oft-used kilowatt hours per square meter per year metric meant nothing to CFOs. So in these roundtables, for example, for offices, I would tell them that an average office building in India consumes 250 kilowatt hours per square meter per year, whereas the best-in-class office building consumes 60 kilowatt hours per square meter per year. That's a 75% energy efficiency opportunity. Of the 15 or so CFOs in the room, only about 1 or 2 would take note of this fact. I then tell them that it could be the difference between paying 14 rupees per square foot per month for your average building or paying 3 rupees 25 paise per square foot per month for your best-in-class office building. About half of them would take note at this point. I then tell them that it could be the difference between paying 1,400 rupees per employee per month for electricity for your average building or paying 325 rupees per employee per month for a best-in-class building. At this point, I have the attention of about 3/4 of the CFOs in the room. I'd then say, I know what you're thinking, but that's best in class and I'm sure it's going to take a lot of effort to go there. So even if I concede, not necessarily agree, but let's just go after only 1/4 of the energy efficiency opportunity. Even that is worth 2 rupees 50 paise per square foot per month or 250 rupees per employee per month. At this point, usually I'd have all of the CFOs paying attention. And then I'd say, so if you have a 50,000 square foot office building, you could be looking at savings worth rupees 125,000 per month, even if you only go after 1/4 of the energy efficiency opportunity. So also for hospitals, I tell them that the average hospital is at 300 kilowatt hours per square meter per year versus the best in class hospital at 150 kilowatt hours per square meter per year. A 50% energy efficiency opportunity. A lukewarm response. Now we know that hospitals have a daily rate for beds. So I tell them, how about the difference between paying 300 rupees per bed daily or paying 100 rupees per bed daily for a best-in-class hospital for electricity. And even just 1/4 of this opportunity could save your 200-bed hospital 200,000 rupees per month. Or for hotels, with the average hotel at 416 kilowatt hours per square meter per year versus a best-in-class hotel at 200 kilowatt hours per square meter per year, a 50% energy efficiency opportunity, lukewarm response again. Now remember, we book room nights in hotels. So how about the difference between paying 525 rupees per room per night for your average hotel for electricity, or paying 250 rupees per room per night for electricity for your best in class hotel? And even just a quarter of that opportunity could save your 100 room hotel 150,000 rupees per month. One more example that I'd like to share, the green retrofit of the Empire State Building. In 2008, a group of varied stakeholders came together to answer the question about whether there is a business case for deep retrofits. We had the ownership of the building, which owned 6.5 million square feet of real estate in New York City, of which 2.7 million square feet was within the Empire State Building. There was a global climate initiative, a world-renowned non-profit where I was at the time, an energy service company, a real estate service provider, and a project management company. There was a significant renovation project underway at the building worth about $550 million. Around $93 million of this was being spent towards energy-related infrastructure upgrades. This original solution delivered 0% energy savings for a $93 million spend. The team evaluated over 60 energy efficiency measures in 4 packages and zeroed in on a bundle of 8 energy efficiency measures. The resulting solution delivered 38% energy savings compared to the previous year, with a 3-year effective payback. 60% of this, 24% of the energy savings, was under a performance guarantee by the energy service company. So the message was, spend $13.2 million more and save $4.4 million every year in energy costs. And oh, by the way, you also avoid 111,000 metric tons of carbon dioxide over 15 years. But here's the thing. The chart that sold the energy efficiency retrofit of the Empire State Building was not one that showed the 8 measures and how much energy use or carbon dioxide emissions each measure reduced. Although that chart was also a part of the presentation. The chart that sold the energy efficiency retrofit of the Empire State Building was one where the net present value of the different packages of measures were plotted against the cumulative CO2 abatement over 15 years for each of the packages. The solution that was chosen represented the optimal balance of financial returns and CO2 reduction. So why net present value? Because at the outset, we asked the client, the owner of 6.5 million square feet of real estate in New York City, what metric they'd like us to use as we made the business case for a green retrofit. And what they said is, an investment is an investment, so show us what this one is worth in terms of net present value. And that is exactly what we did. So what are some of the benefits of doing this? We move to pitching the value, not justifying the cost. We elevate the conversation from the boiler room to the boardroom. We help shift the discourse to how we are positively impacting the top line, not just improving the bottom line. And putting the currency in the numerator makes it a productivity metric, not an efficiency metric. Guess which one of the two excites animal spirits? And what is the cost of doing this or not doing this? The cost of doing this, as I said before, it takes 1 to 5% of the effort that it takes to develop the solutions to convert the language into metrics that matter to business decision makers. Cost of not doing this, it's a cost we can ill afford and a lifetime of frustration to go along with it. I'd like to end by quoting Amory Lovins, who I've had the good fortune of working with, who used to say, when it comes to making sacrifices, they've got the sign wrong. And as Al Gore had said about this statement in one of his interviews back in 2007, he was not talking about trigonometry, sines, cosines. Turns out he was talking about a plus sign and a minus sign. His point was that most of the important changes that have to be made to sharply reduce carbon dioxide actually have a plus sign instead of a minus sign. They represent improvements to our quality of life. And I would add, to the way we do business. In the same spirit, let's get the signs right as we communicate the value of climate tech to decision makers. So to sum up, To get to 100 climate tech unicorns or 1,000 climate tech unicorns, climate techies and sustainability champions need to communicate the real business value of their offerings in the language of the business decision makers using the metrics that matter to the decision makers. This, I believe, is an idea worth spreading.